Far from the crowded room, you played my heartstrings. What could I do? Cold, caught by the light in you, the prospect of something new, too good to be true. We were so young and free, a beautiful symphony, no time to deceive. Now all the love has gone. We traded our innocence, tried to stay strong.
Hey guys, welcome back to Tangled Heartstrings. We're exploring a topic today that touches every relationship at its core, health and physical and mental. Let's break it down. First, we're going to talk about hypergamy. What is it? It just sounds extra.
It's the idea of dating up, finding someone with a bigger paycheck, a better car, or a fancier lifestyle.
Really, those fuckers. But then what is hood fishing? I hear it's like pretending to have a rougher, more streetwise background than you actually do.
Yeah, because nothing says romance like a fake backstory.
Have you ever done that, Ashley? Have you ever tried to make yourself look better?
I try not to, I try to be really authentic. Um, I think that sometimes I understand kind of exaggerating your background, maybe because you want to be more than you are. But there are people who literally just make shit up. And I'm like, that didn't happen.
Like, I own a
No,
Maserati, but I drive a Honda every day.
right? I'm kind of like, if people don't like me as I am, then I don't want them. Like, I can't keep lies straight. I can't lie about anything. because I forget who I told what to. So for me, it's just easier to just stick with my real backstory, which has enough trauma of its own anyways.
No, not necessarily trauma. It's learning experiences. I wouldn't call that trauma. It's a learning experience because you're learning what you don't like and what you're not going to put up with anymore. So,
Well, and I think about like the whole streetwise background, like the hoodwinking, is that people like making things up about their past to make people feel bad for them or to make them seem like they're cooler than they are? Like, I guess I'd be interested in seeing an example of somebody who actually did this and what their story was. I bet there's some Lifetime movie out there about that.
oh, I'm sure there is. There's always a Lifetime movie about
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 everything.
one thing or another.
If it's about a crazy person that does something to manipulate someone, there is a Lifetime movie.
That's exactly what hood fishing is. It's manipulation. It's making promises that you're just not going to be able to keep at all.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you are coming across somebody that is telling you all of this stuff and you have been able to find out that those things are untrue, but you're willing to continue the relationship, I think you need to look in a different spot because I don't think it's a relationship for you. And if you're out there hood fishing, or just don't do that to people. Making promises, even about your situation, that are not true is never okay.
Well, and if you think about it, if somebody lies to you about their backstory, which is like the core of who they are, they're going to be willing to lie to you about anything. And so if you find out that things about their past are not true, how can you even trust them moving forward?
Right. So I'm thinking those hood fishers are cheaters.
I want to know where the term hood fishing came from.
Like,
Who named
yeah,
that?
no idea. That is a really, really weird way to describe it.
I called it hoodwinking earlier. Is
Hood
hoodwinking
fishing.
hoodwinking? I don't know what it is.
It's fishing.
Hood fishing. Got it. Well, what
Yeah.
about the dating up? Do you know anyone who's done that or who maybe you think has done that?
Well, I've never heard of hypergamy. I've heard of a gold digger. And I think they kind of play together. I mean, if you're trying to marry up, date up, I don't see a problem with it until it becomes a gold digging situation. Because maybe you're in, let's say, a lower income bracket and you would like a nicer lifestyle. I don't see a problem if you are compatible with the person, but that's where compatibility comes into play also.
Yeah. And there may be people out there that make a lot of money that just want somebody to care for, who loves and appreciates them. And so there could be space for that working. I know for me,
Or
I'm
maybe,
attracted to ambition.
oh
And
yeah,
it's not because I'm after somebody's money or I want to elevate myself to a higher status. I'm a person with 5 jobs and I'm always looking for what's the next thing on the horizon. And so I'm attracted to people that are like that. So when I meet a person who they just, they've had the same job for 15 years and they're not moving and they just kind of go to work and then they come home and they watch TV or they watch sports, like there's nothing wrong with that, but it sounds very boring for me and my lifestyle, as fast paced as it is, and I'm not attracted to that. But when I meet somebody who's like, oh yeah, I have a business doing this and I'm getting this off the ground, like it has nothing to do with how much money they're making. It has to do with what they're doing and what they're moving toward. So I
right.
hope I'm not a hypergamy person, whatever the word is for that.
Actually, I don't, honestly, I don't think it's a bad thing. Wanting to make your situation better and first try it yourself. Of course. First, try it yourself. Make sure you have that ambition also, and you have those qualities also, because again, compatibility. If you're lazy, you're not going to work out in that relationship because they're going to want to keep moving up and keep moving forward, and you're just going to hold them back. So they're going to walk away.
Yeah. And I think about like the idea of dating up, like in the negative sense, is probably like you're saying, the people who they're just lazy and they want to use someone for their
Mm-hmm.
money or for their status. And it's not coming from a place of genuine love or wanting to grow in a relationship. It's just coming from a place of, I want someone to make me look good so that I can puff myself up. And then once I reach the status I want to reach, I'm going to drop this person and move on to someone else. I think that's
Right.
where it becomes a negative thing.
Right. I also think it plays a part in friendships also. With social media and everything, I think, you have a video blow up and your friends aren't doing so well on social media. So, or a person that doesn't like you becomes your friend because you are popular on a social media platform or something like that, or trying to date somebody that is on a social media platform that has a lot of followers. I think it plays a part in relationships and friendships too.
Yeah, definitely. I think about Taylor Swift, who I'm not like a Swiftie. I don't own any Taylor Swift albums. But I really
Sorry.
appreciate her as a businesswoman and as a role model. And she talks about when she was in junior high, how much she got made fun of, and everybody told her she would never make it, and she was a nerd, and like they just constantly they like bullied her. And
Oh,
now that she's huge, people have reached out to her
right.
telling her what a great job she's doing, and they always knew that she would make it, and she's just like, "I'm sorry, who are you?"
Exactly.
Like, that's not
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. But seriously, folks, whether you're aiming high or faking it, authenticity matters. If you're not being yourself, how can you expect to build something real?
100%.
Now, this one cracks me up. Dating for the plots.
Dating for what? Every time I turn around, there's like some new trendy phrase that I don't know about.
Dating for the plot. It's when people treat a relationship like a drama series, a sitcom, maybe a TikTok video. They're not in it for the person, they're in it for the story.
My family jokes about my love life all the time. I'm like the single one of the family. And my dad always tells me that hearing my dating stories is like watching a sitcom, but you're watching reruns and it's just different characters. And he's like, I feel like I've already seen this one before. Wasn't it a different guy though? And then my sisters tell me that my dating life is like a reality TV show. They're like we are tired of hearing about it, but also like we can't wait to hear more. Like it's
Tell
like
me
you want
more.
to stop watching, you just
We
can't.
want, we want all the details. We need something to think about while we're sleeping.
Yes. My older sister is always like, I don't have any drama, so I live for your drama. It keeps me entertained.
That's
It's like,
awesome.
you're welcome. I do all of this for you and your entertainment.
Well, I mean, do you think people create drama in relationships just to have something to do?
I don't know anyone personally who does it, but I think about like reality TV shows, and I do think some of it is scripted for the show, but for the plot, right? But I think some of it is just these people have so much money and so much time that they just get bored and they blow things out of proportion. And I'm sure there's normal people who do that too.
Of course. Zach said your dating life sounds just like his.
Yeah. Well, now my dating life is like non-existent. because I'm like, we're just gonna take a little break. I'm getting tired of the reruns, honestly. And the episodes are much shorter now, much shorter episodes.
Well, I will say this, as a married person, I will be completely honest with you. I've done this in our past, created the drama just to have something to do because we were at such a boring point in our relationship. Like, he was bored, I was bored, and of course, I was going to create drama. I have gotten better. I have healed from that problem, and I know how to do that. But I mean, sometimes when you're married, I'm 20, almost 24 years in May. So sometimes when you're married for that long, it can get boring sometimes. So you gotta liven it up a little bit. A little drama doesn't hurt every once in a while. Just don't make it too dramatic. I've done that. It's not fun.
That's awesome. So here's another interesting thing to think about is, could the drama be because sometimes we don't trust our partner's intentions? Like maybe this is part of your drama, but I've been in relationships where a fight is picked with me because somebody thinks that I'm intentionally doing something to bother them. So they're not believing the best in me. They're believing that I have ill intentions, and then it creates a fight. Have you ever seen anyone that's done that or experienced that?
No, mine was always just out of boredom. It wasn't ever like that at all. Ever. I've seen some couples, but those are not my stories to tell.
Yeah.
Those are some very dramatic, very not working out, sometimes ending in divorce situations. So those are definitely not my stories to tell. Zach also says that you just need him in your life.
Is that so? Where have you been all this time, Zach? I've been waiting.
Have you ever met anyone that has been more worried about the wedding, the party, the show of the relationship over the actual relationship, the love, the intimacy, the bonding?
I think that, yes, for sure. I think it's so easy to judge celebrities because it's like a them problem, but like we think about like the celebrities and the huge weddings and whatever, but it's really not even just that. I come from a background with like a Christian conservative background where
Right.
people are waiting for marriage to have sex, and they're putting all of this money into this wedding and this party, and it's going to be this big special thing. And it's really not a healthy relationship to start with, but there's so much pressure in society, but especially in the church, about finding a partner and getting married and having a family. And so I think that there's a reason that you see people getting divorced after only 1 or 2 years.
Yes.
And it's because they put all this focus in the perfect dress and the perfect invitations and the food and the decorations. And it's like, when the party's over, you're just like stuck there with this person. And then what's the next thing to look forward to? Well, having a baby. Well, let's not do that right away, right? Like some people do, but some people are like, let's build a foundation together. And after the party's over, they realize they don't really like each other.
Right.
They're like, I don't, you
Even
annoy me.
now, hypergamy plays a part in this situation too, I think, is because you're marrying up, you're trying to keep up with their lifestyle, but you're in it for that lifestyle. You're not in it for the love, the intimacy, the companionship, the every once in a while fights. So I think that has a lot to do. That's the bad part of hypergamy, I think. I'm glad we got to bring that in too.
Yeah. Well, and the commitment of, for better or worse, the idea of the hypergamy is you're only in it for the better.
Right.
And when the worst comes, say that you marry someone for their status as like, say, a professional football player or something. And then he gets injured and his career's over.
Right.
Now what do you have? Or you marry somebody for their money and then their business goes bankrupt and you guys are back to square one. It's like you didn't
Exactly.
marry them for the right reasons. And so now where does that leave you as a couple?
Exactly. So it's important to keep in perspective here. Not everything is always bad, and sometimes things are face value and not a more sinister plot. So take your dating life and be careful because you never know what you're going to get. And this is a situation where we can throw a fit if we don't get what we get once.
And be sure to, when you're in a relationship, believe that your partner has the best intentions. And if you're going to get married, do your best. Nobody's perfect. A lot of us are divorced here. But do your best to be in it for better or for worse.
Definitely for better or for worse. Don't ever get in a relationship and not have the intimacy, the companionship, the arguing. The arguing is important, guys, because if everything is peachy keen, something really isn't right.
Someone's not bringing up something that's truly bothering them if you never fight.
Exactly. Now, I've been on the dating scene, hot ass it. I love my husband with all of my heart, but we had to shake things up a bit over the years. Try new things to keep it fresh and not all that different from contra dating. Contra dating is when you meet someone who is outside your normal comfort zone and try to make it work with someone completely different from you.
Do you mean like opposites attract?
Yes, definitely opposites attract. It's more of, let's say, I'll use my husband and myself as an example. He is the more laid back, quiet homebody, and I am the loud, want to go out and have fun all the time.
You don't say.
Don't want to be restrained at all. So yeah, it's opposites attract, and it does work. Sometimes it doesn't, but that's where communication comes to key.
So, what sorts of things need to be in alignment for opposites attract to work? Because, like, obviously, you want to go out, he wants to stay in, you want to be loud, he wants to be quiet. Like, what are the sorts of things that you think you have to have in common to make it work?
You have to think logically and compromise, honestly. Sometimes he doesn't want to go out, so we stay in. And then there's other times where I absolutely need to go out and he doesn't want to, but he compromises and we go out anyway. And it's not necessarily he doesn't truly want to go out. He just wants to be home. He's worked all day.
Yeah, I get that. He's tired. I'm like you. I work from home in many of my jobs. And so when I have free time, I want to go out. I'm like, I'm here all day. I got to get out of this place. I got to go do something. I don't think though that I could date someone who was an opposite in that way. I think I would be really good with somebody that was maybe a little more introverted than me. Somebody that keeps me from being busy and going out constantly and encourages me to stay home and rest a little bit. Um, but I don't want to compromise, Mia. I just want somebody just like me that wants to do everything that I want to do.
I get that, and it's hard sometimes, and I struggle with it sometimes too, because I always want to be out, I always want to be spontaneous, I always want to be doing something and keeping myself busy. But I take it as he grounds me.
Yeah.
Like when I'm too much, he pulls me back because I can be too much. So I think that opposites attract plays a huge role in our relationship because he does ground me so much and tells me, hey, maybe we're not going to do that this time.
Do you find that you help get him out of his shell too,
Oh
in the same
yes,
way he does?
absolutely. Yes, because I honestly I don't know that he would go out and or anything. I mean, of course he would go out and go grocery shopping and out to dinner and stuff like that. But I don't think like the bar scene or anything like that would have ever happened without me.
I get that.
It's
Well,
just
and
not his place.
yeah, I think of the opposites attract too, like a person who really talks a lot and then a person who is really quiet and likes to listen. They would be a really good couple together. I will say I'm a person who talks a lot and I need to be with a person who talks a lot because I'm like "Brrr," like all the time. But I think for a lot of people, the person that talks a lot really just wants to be heard. And so that
Mhm.
would be a way that like the opposites would work really well.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that would definitely work well.
I'm
I
trying
think you need an opposite.
Well, I'm trying to think of opposites that I've been with that it's worked. Um, I dated a guy who was really introverted and it was always me talking and I would like go out to an event. Like I was at the time I was on the worship team at my church and we had this really cool event with all these churches coming together and I came back from it and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like the music was really cool." And I ran into my friend David I haven't seen in years. He's another drummer and I ran into my friend Kristen and like I blew all the stuff. And he looked at me and he said, "Cool." And I was immediately like, "Oh my gosh, that's all he has to say to everything that I said." And I realized that I really am looking for someone to engage. And maybe the problem isn't introverts. Maybe I just was with a person that doesn't know how to engage well. Um, but I learned I can't be with a quiet person because
You
I'm
keep moving quiet.
but I also love to listen. And so I don't want to just talk at somebody. I want to listen to.
You want to listen to.
Yeah, I do.
I get that.
As much as I talk, you wouldn't know it, but I do like to listen.
I have a problem with listening sometimes. So I think it's like me being a talker and him not being a talker is okay. Because sometimes I'll be like, no.
Do you ever do this?
Not for us.
All right. Zach is saying, I'm usually quiet until I get to know people, but after that, I hardly stop talking. Me too, except I hardly stop talking the whole time. I do
Usually
find
like
if I'm the new person, if there's like an established group and I'm the new person, I am shy because I don't know who these people are. I don't know what they believe about things. I don't know what they think about me. And so there's this kind of feeling it out to see, can I be my true authentic self here? Is this a place where I belong? Um, but then I figure out quickly yes or no.
you're on quickly, yes or no.
I think
I
Zach got it right though. I trust too early.
and this is probably why I need him so much. Is because I don't care. I don't care. I'll just say do anything. I just don't care.
That that's kinda good though, I like that. That is like the true authentic no matter what.
Right?
But, like, I'm myself no matter what, like, I don't ever, um, change what I think or how I act. I might just be quieter. If I walk into a room where I feel like everybody believes differently on really big topics compared to me, um, I might not speak up and be the new person causing a bunch of tension. I might just not engage in the conversation, not participate, unless something is said that I'm like, I need to speak up and like say that that's not right or that I don't believe that or whatever. Like there's a few like topics that are near and dear to my heart that I would want to speak up, but it's like weird to come into a new place and just, you all don't know me, but I think you're all wrong about this topic that you all agree on. You know what I mean? So
Oh no, see, I would. I would love those situations. They are so fun.
that's
I
why I
just
like
like
you so
to,
much. You're everything I want to be, Mia. You're inspiring me.
I like to ruffle some feathers every once in a while.
I like to keep the peace. I might sometimes I'll be the one to challenge, like, that's interesting. Have you ever thought of this? And so instead of saying, well, I think you're wrong because, I'm like, I just kind of challenge them to think about it in a different way. Um, and then they don't get mad at me because I don't want anyone to be mad at me because I'm a people pleaser. I'm working on it. I'm working on
I thrive on it.
it.
My favorite thing about myself.
See, opposites attract, you and me. That's why we're such a good team. This is how we shake it up. Um,
So moving on. Well, when you're dating, how does the algorithm work with that?
do you mean on like dating apps?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say. It's a really like algorithm driven world. And there's this silly idea, like thinking in terms of dating apps. There's a silly idea that if you match in 4 or 5 categories, that you'll automatically be compatible and have no problems and you'll live happily ever after. For example, on a dating app, you can put if you drink or if you smoke or if you do recreational drugs, and you can put where you're from, and you can put a political affiliation or a religion. And it's like, so there might be certain things that you're looking for that you align on, but then when you start talking, you don't always live happily ever after.
Yeah. So it works great until you realize you're being ghosted by an algorithm.
Yeah, or worse, your perfect match is just a bot. I've had friends that I had a friend who heard of this dating app hack to try to outsmart the algorithm. Because what it does currently is it sends you people that are in your area that it thinks you'll be compatible with. So this hack is you X out of every single potential match for like a week. Everyone who comes to
Oh,
you,
wow.
X, X,
Oh
X,
yeah.
left, no, absolutely not. And it confuses the algorithm. And so then the algorithm goes, oh my gosh, I don't know what she wants or what she's looking for. So it starts just sending you everybody, and it starts sending your profile to everybody. And it's supposed to increase your chances of getting a match. But I'm like, I don't know if that's the best thing because you just X'd out of like 200 people. And what if the algorithm has an idea of what it's doing? What if it's looking behind the scenes at matching like minded people in what they're looking for and how they communicate? It's like, what if you've just deleted a great potential match because you're trying to trick the algorithm?
But have you used this trick before? First
I
question. I have a
I
second one to go with it.
my friend did it, and she took a whole week where she X'd out of everyone, and then it started sending her everyone. And she did get one match, and they, hung out for a month or two. But to me, I just don't really have time to X X X X X every person that might be somebody great. And I don't know. What I've done instead is, if I feel like I'm not getting any new people, I have just deleted the app and then just started over just to get all of the fresh matches again. Because it's like, what if I swiped left on somebody because I was having a bad day or I was moody? There's been days that I'm swiping and I swipe left like 50 times in a row. Like,
Yeah.
no, no.
Have any of these potential matches that you've matched with through the algorithm, have any of them actually worked out? Or maybe her hack is working.
She only had the one match, and he ended up being emotionally unavailable and came on really, really strong and was like pursuing her really hard. And then when they met up, like they had a super great time. And then he got really cold, and it started being mixed signals. And so like she was doing all the driving to him, he was an hour away. and he would make a plan to come to her, and then he would cancel the day of because he was too tired. And she was like, but I really wanted to see you. Like, can I come to you? And it just was not a good situation. And she ended up just ending things and being like, I deserve somebody that knows that they want to be with me and makes equal effort. So I don't know.
Well,
I've
I have a question for our viewers. Have you guys used a dating app, and do you think the algorithm works for you? Let us know in the comments. Send us a message. Maybe we'll feature you on our show.
It's an interesting question, though. Does the algorithm work?
Does it really work? Because you hear about all of these dating stories like online that, oh, I matched on something.com and I've had this amazing story. Zach says he has used dating apps and they have failed for you. Okay, Zach, I have some homework for you. Why don't you take one of those dating apps you've been using, undownload it, re-download it, take a week, use the hack, and see what happens. And then come back and report to us and let us know how it works for you.
You can't just uninstall the app. You have to delete your profile and
And your
start over.
cash.
Yes, there's some of the apps when you go to delete your profile, it says, "Are you sure? Do you want us to just reset your profile to 0 as if it was new?" And then you can say yes, and you don't have to re-import your pictures and say put all your answers and everything again. But yeah, I'd be interested to know. I haven't been on dating apps in a few months. Um, so I've not done it, and I don't really have any intention of getting back on anytime soon. Um, but my profile's still active out there. So when I get back on someday, I better have some matches or I'm going to feel real bad.
When you get back on, are you going to reboot yourself? Change the way you dress? Have you changed the way you dress since you've been on dating apps?
So I have changed. So I was conservative Christian for 32 years. And when I went through my divorce, I kind of rebooted myself, not on purpose. I just changed. My worldview changed a lot. My views on marriage, my views on um, modesty, my views on my confidence and things like that. So I started at 32 drinking for the first time alcohol and wearing low cut clothes and bikinis. Like I never like this shirt I would have thought was like a little on the border of being too low because it was so close. Like I was so conservative in how I
Don't look
dressed.
in my closet.
Don't look in my closet now either. Ashley at 32 would look at Ashley at 40 and be like, "What have you done with yourself?" But so I really have rebooted. But I think one great thing about me, one thing I love about myself is, I have like a normal day job, a 9 to 5, and I have clothing that I dress professionally. And then I am a mom, and so you'll find me in leggings and a hooded sweatshirt and a beanie and boots going to the store because I, woke up late or whatever. And I play drums in a band, so I'm wearing kind of edgy, sexy, rockish type of clothing. But then I'll be out on a date and I'll be on like in a really nice like blouse or a nice dress. And so my reboot was kind of like I can be whoever I want and I can wear whatever I want. And I don't have to be stuck in any bubble of who or how I have to be.
That's amazing. I've never had the issue of where I've had to reboot myself. Well, no, actually I do. Let me rephrase that. When I lost weight, I had to. I didn't have a choice because none of my clothes fit. And now they do much better.
Good for you. Do you feel better too?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But it's not for the dating world.
It's for yourself and it's for
It
your
is for
family.
myself. And it's important to, even if you feel like it's not going to help you in the dating world, sometimes a reboot is really important for self-care and self-love. Sometimes changing your wardrobe, getting out of the sweatpants, putting a pair of jeans on, putting a nice top on, and even just walking down the street, that's self-care. That's getting you out, getting you in the sun, and it's important.
Especially if you've been feeling down and depressed and you feel like you've lost some purpose. I know for me, I went through a breakup February of 2023, and that has been quite the process of getting over. I thought this was my person that I would be with forever. And when that ended, I just felt like I completely lost my purpose and looking to my future, like I had no idea what my future would look like. And it was really hard to get up and do my hair and my makeup and put on real clothes. But I found that when I did, it made me feel better. And it made me feel like, okay, there were days that I was like, I'm never going to get through this. I'm never going to get over this. Like, it's just not going to happen. Um, but it's like, I can still take care of myself. I can still love myself. I can still take pride in who I am. I don't have to let this experience that I had dictate my future. And I feel like when we lose ourselves, it's like the trauma wins, you know?
I think that was a reboot in itself too. And that was an emotional reboot that you needed. It wasn't changing what you looked like or anything like that, but you needed that emotional reboot.
I did. And it was one of those things that I'm like, I can't see how anything good could come out of this, and I can't understand how this is how things ended. But now, almost 2 years later, I can be like, well, I'm still here. And I have friends that I've met that I might not have otherwise met. And I'm a part of this show now that I might not have
Yes.
otherwise been a part of. You know, it's like if I had gone down that path, my life would look totally different. And I would never choose to go down that path again. But I love what my life looks like right now. And so it's like, keep getting up, keep loving yourself, give yourself grace to feel the things that you're feeling. Sometimes that means, just sitting on the couch escaping into the Vampire Diaries. I did that a lot. I watched the whole Vampire Diaries series, okay? Um, because it's like you want to just escape reality and you want to just watch somebody else's reality and fantasy and whatever, but you just keep going and one day it's like, okay, I'm still here and I'm okay.
That's good. I'm glad you've healed from that relationship and and you've been able to move on. And that's important too. Taking the time when you're moving between relationships and looking for that special someone, taking that time for self-care in between and finding out, because you're one person when you're in a relationship, you're another person when you're single. And you need to figure out who those two people are differently so you can heal yourself and move on into a newer relationship if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, not jumping out of this
Right.
relationship into another one because you don't know how to be alone. Learning to be alone is painful but beautiful and worth it.
And it's self-care. Learning to be alone seems like it is detrimental in the process, but it is so worth it when you come out of it in the end.
Definitely. We know from experience. You know,
Exactly. So whether you're swiping, scheming, or storytelling, the goal is always to find something real. So what's your take on the trends? Drop a comment or share your wildest dating story. We want to hear it. Please.
if you have wild stories, we're here for the drama. Living vicariously through you.
Absolutely. Zach has deleted all of his profiles and he's not going to be able to give us a little run through.
Well, maybe he'll meet someone in real life, not through an app. And maybe he has some stories from that, or maybe he has stories from when he was on the apps before.
Absolutely.
Share your story, Zach. We want to hear it. My gosh, so it really was an exhausting 2024, and it felt like it dragged on forever. And I'm so glad 2025 is finally here, though I'm a little afraid the exhaustion is just going to continue.
Oh, don't I know it. I've got a senior, got a junior, and I've got a middle schooler. And I am so over that. But now that we're into 2025, we've had all this awful,
It
and that
has
makes it
been,
worse.
it's been real bad. And it's getting colder this week. So,
Yes. I have a
so
friend who's married, and it's been so chaotic for her. Her husband is huge into politics, and she's not in the same party as him. And he's been not so nice about it lately.
that's no good. It's just as bad in my social circle here. It's like politics and religion. Those differences have been ruining marriages and relationships.
Let me tell you, dating someone with opposing political views is like walking on a tightrope. One wrong word, and the whole thing comes crashing down. But for some people, it works. I've heard stories of couples who thrive despite their differences. It's all about respect and communication.
So well said. What do you think, Mia? What do you guys think in the chat or listening online? Can people with different religions or political affiliations be compatible?
I think they can. But again, this comes into communication and compromise. If you're not willing to compromise on anything that you value in your political life, anything that you value for your morals, or I mean, just anything, if you guys can't be compatible there, or at least compromise in your compatibility, I don't see it working. Just my honest opinion.
I know I've got a friend who she has a deep religious faith and her boyfriend's an atheist. And they can talk about these things and there's like a level of respect there. Like he's like, I used to believe that, I don't believe it anymore. But there's also a little bit of like judgment. Like he thinks she's naive for believing what she believes. And he doesn't say that. He tries to be respectful. That's how it makes her feel because she's like, well, you're saying that you used to think that until you learned XYZ and now you don't. Makes it sound like I'm stupid because I haven't learned. And so it's like there becomes this defensiveness because you care about something and you're passionate about it. And it's hard, I think, to not be defensive when you're misaligned sometimes.
When you're misaligned, though, but you have at that time you have to look at all the other aspects of your relationship. You have to look at, is he attentive? Is she attentive? Are they meeting all of your love languages? Are they really caring in other situations instead of just looking at, oh my gosh, he's a Republican. Oh my gosh, she's a Democrat. Oh my gosh, they have no political affiliation. Those are the ones that I mean, and then you have to really look at, I can't think of how to say it to where it's going to sound good, because it's hard when you talk about politics and religion and relationships.
Mhm.
I
I think
mean,
I think it also depends on how passionate you are about politics
right.
and why. So I know there are certain political topics that I'm passionate about. I'm not a super political person. I don't follow a ton of it, but there are a couple things in particular that I'm passionate about. And so, not to get political, but I have a lot of friends who are gay, non binary, and trans. And so, it's really important for me that if I'm going to date someone, it's somebody that's going to be respectful of all of my friends. And it's not about them being a Democrat or being a liberal, or it's not about who they're voting for in the political affiliation. It's about their view on the topic. How do
Right.
you view this type of person? And if the answer is, oh, I view them like any other person, like what, it doesn't affect my life. Like, why do I care who they marry or who they love? Like, for me, that would be in alignment. But if it was like, oh, well, they shouldn't this or they shouldn't that, or this is like, that is a huge misalignment. And so for me, it wouldn't matter how kind someone was to me or how much they said they loved me, or if they were touchy and spent time with me and loved me in my love languages. If I felt like they viewed my friends as less than, these friends are okay because they're straight or they're the gender they were born with, but these friends are different, like that would be a misalignment for me. So, not making a political statement for the show whatsoever,
Right.
just sharing an example of there are certain things that I have to be in alignment with. And if I find out we're not in alignment, I'm just like, it's not going to work. It's a deal breaker for me.
I totally get that. But see, this is where I differ a lot because I'm just friends with everybody. So I guess in the dating world, it wouldn't really change too much for me because I just like everybody. I don't care. If your morals don't line up with mine, that's okay because those are your thoughts and your opinions and how you want to live your life. So even if I were dating, let's just say I was dating,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think your political, your religion, or anything like that. I don't think any of those would really matter to me because it's more a core of, are you a good person?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to like who I like, and we can be okay, and we can thrive. You don't have to come and hang out with me and my friends, and I'm not going to come and hang out with you and your friends if I don't think that I align with them. And
Yeah.
it's okay to have your two separate lives and come together in a relationship and still have those separate lives too.
Yeah. And I'm like, you have to like all my friends, and I am going to hang out with your friends. We're so opposite. And I really am like, I mean, I've been single for a while and I've been divorced for 8 years. And um, if I ever get in a relationship again, I want it to be somebody that I feel like we're compatible in all the ways. And I think I do think you're right. There are people who can make it work. I have a very close friend who is passionate about, LGBT inclusion and some of those types of things. He's a Democrat and his wife is a Republican. And they've talked about things and they have differing ideas. And part of that is the background of living in the city versus the background of living in a small town, the background of how they were raised. And they have just said, you know what? We just don't have to talk about this. And we can just, I'm going to look into what I look into and I'm going to care about these things. And you can look into what you look into and you can care about those things. But at the end of the day, we're a family and we love each other. So I know it can work. And I
Right.
don't think there's anything wrong with people having a different view than me. I just think that if somebody, like that topic specifically, if somebody um, feels the opposite as me, why would they want to date me anyway? Because I have a rainbow flag hanging from um, my garage, and I have all kinds of people at my parties or in my bands that they're not going to like. So why would they want to be affiliated with me anyway? Other than I'm so beautiful and charming. But other than that, like we're going to butt heads on important topics. So they would be, I feel, better suited for somebody who thinks like they think because there's like half the world or half of America feels that way. And
Right.
so I'm just, I'm not in alignment, but if I was in a relationship like that, I'd probably figure out ways to make it work and just be like, we just don't have to talk about it. But
I may hurt your feelings just a little bit.
go for it.
Just a little bit.
Go for it.
But they're dating you.
Huh?
They're not dating your friend group and they're not dating your family. They're not dating your church family and they're not dating me as your co-host, okay? They're dating you for you, and they're not looking at all of those other things.
Right.
So that's probably where that's coming from. Because whether you like or whether they like the idea that you have a rainbow flag hanging in your house, wherever, it doesn't matter to them because they look past that and see you for you. And I think that's what those people were doing. They were looking past the, let's say, cosmetic part of you, and they were looking at your soul and your compassion and who you are as a person, and not necessarily what's around you.
That makes sense.
Okay, sorry,
But
I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I feel like it needed to be said.
Well, and for me, my soul and my compassion is why I'm so passionate about this topic. And that makes me want to align myself with a person who feels the same. So I've only dated one person that I felt like was in alignment on that. And it just was like the happiest I've ever felt in a relationship is I finally found somebody that is as loving and respectful to my friends as I would want. And I know, like, especially when you've been in a relationship for a long time, like it basically just becomes you and your person, and a lot of the friends drop off. But because I've been single so long, my friends have become my core group. And so my friends are really important to me. And so whoever is dating me, you're right, they're not dating my friends, but my
Right.
friends are around a lot.
Right.
And so I don't want someone who I had someone tell me that, like, to witness two gay people making out would just be disgusting and you would just have to
Okay,
turn your
now
head.
that is like a complete cutoff. That is not okay. Now
That's
at that
not
time,
an alignment.
yeah,
I can't do
that
that.
is never okay.
Yes.
But I mean, just like if they're not saying anything, why make it a big deal? Do you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But
But
I
then
mean,
I
if you
feel
come out and
like,
saying stuff, then that's totally different, and that's not okay.
but I'm like, if he has a strong opinion and he's just choosing not to say it because I feel differently, then I feel like he's having to hide a part of who he is or mask it to hide it from me because he knows that this is important to me. I don't want to be with somebody that they feel like they have to mask a part of themselves or they'll upset me or hide part of who they are. So I'm like, I just want to find somebody who's like the male version of me, and except for every flaw that I have, I want somebody that is the opposite in those ways, where I'm a flake, they're responsible, I spend all the money, they help save it, but not in a stingy way. Like, that's what I want. I want to be alignment on everything. It's totally realistic, right?
Guys, we would love to hear your dating stories. So drop a comment, share your story, or answer our poll online. And who knows, your story might just make it into our next episode.
It just might.
Hopefully it does. I would love to read some of your stories. So please, please, please send them in.
Yes, we want to hear from you guys.
I promise I won't hurt your feelings. I don't know you. Well, I'll try not to anyways. You never know.
Well, and as if we're not talking about enough hard topics today, if you add health challenges to the mix, it will either strengthen a bond or tear apart the fabric or test it in ways that you never expect. But with open communication, health challenges don't have to be the end of a relationship.
But before we dive into that conversation, let's take a moment to center ourselves with a quick mindful exercise. Take a deep breath and center yourself. Did you know, this is going to be a little bit difficult for me. Having a lot of health issues in your relationship can be difficult. And it's not a reason to leave somebody. Mental health is probably one of the biggest issues that we have in the world. And not recognizing it, not having our significant others recognize it, the signs and symptoms of it. I went through a really difficult time. I've been diagnosed bipolar. I've been diagnosed manic. Manic bipolar is no fun because you can end up in the hospital sometimes because of it. But luckily, I had somebody that stuck by my side the entire time and really, really helped me navigate through that. Sorry, guys, this is really hard for me. Having a partner with mental health challenges, we're not going to say issues, they're just challenges, they're not issues. They're challenges that we have to work through every single day. We have to choose to be happy in the morning when we wake up, and we have to choose to progress through the day. And sometimes we need support, and that's where our partners come in to help us. And he's been there and helped me so much through it. I've gotten through it. I was at 271, almost 300 pounds, and now I'm at 130. I am no longer on antidepressants. I use cannabis as my antidepressant, my anti-anxiety. It's my happy stuff. It's mommy's medicine, as we say at my house. It makes me happier. It makes me be able to function. And having a partner that has supported me in my journey through my mental health challenges and has supported me in my cannabis usage has been a really, really big help. And that's why I'm here today with you guys.
We're glad to have you here. And I know that that was hard for you to share.
It is.
So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being vulnerable. And I never knew. And when dealing with chronic health challenges, whether it's mental health or physical health, um, obviously communication is everything. You know, your partner understood what you were going through. And it's like that with everyone else. They need to understand what their partner's going through. You need to be open about your needs while remembering their needs as well.
Absolutely. And in the beginning, he really didn't know what was going on. I was quiet. I was reserved. I was just what he thought was normal me. And then when I decided that I wanted to take my own life, that's not long after that is when he found out. But he didn't know about my attempt until a year later.
So
So
you masked that from him for a year.
I masked the attempt for a year, but it wasn't necessarily masking my mental challenges. He just didn't understand how to know the signs and symptoms. So I'm going to go over some of those with you guys because those are very, very important to know. Being, let's say, a recluse, wanting to stay home, especially if it's somebody that is outgoing and has always been on the go their entire lives, and then changing and wanting to stay home and not do the normal things that they're doing. When people change drastically like that, there's usually a mental health challenge that's happening. You need to check in on them, make sure that they're okay. And sometimes those people won't, they'll tell you they're okay, that everything's fine, because they don't want to be a burden on somebody else. And that's really when you're going to tell them, hey, I know you're not okay. I know you're going through something. I can see the changes. I can see that you're not wanting to go out shopping anymore. I can see that you don't want to make phone calls to your friends anymore. I can see you not going out on the weekends anymore. And I want to help you get better, and I want to help you change that.
Well, I wonder if part of it too is when they ask, are you okay? And somebody says, everything's fine. Maybe they haven't admitted to themselves that they're not okay.
That's exactly what it was. That is 100% what it was. I was not admitting to myself because I couldn't see it in myself. And I couldn't figure that out until I started using cannabis, to be honest with you. I didn't figure out that I was not okay until I started using that. And then I had a clear thought, clear mind, and I was able to process everything.
Well, and you're waking up each and every day, maybe feeling a little bit worse. It's kind of like putting on weight or losing weight. You see
Yes.
yourself every day, so you don't notice the difference. But someone on the outside, they might not notice little by little either. But over time, they're like, wow, like something's really different, whether that's positive or negative. And
Right.
so you having a partner to come alongside of you and support you, like that's just amazing.
And it's important to know, even if you don't have a partner, find somebody to talk to, find somebody that, even if it's not somebody close to you, find a therapist to talk to. It's so important, and talk therapy works so well. Because if you don't have anybody in your life and you're depressed, who are you going to talk to? You talk to yourself. You're the depressed person. You don't need to be speaking to yourself. Speaking to somebody else and telling them your thoughts and your feelings helps so much.
Well, sometimes our thoughts and our feelings lie to us, and we
Yes.
tell ourselves things like, I don't matter, and nobody would care if I was even here, and oh my God, I'm so stupid, and I do everything wrong. And having another person to talk that through, or to share your real gut wrenching reactions to yourself, they can go, well, what do you mean? I thought you said, you have this whatever job. How could you be stupid if you've had this job for 10 years? Or how could you be, useless if you have these kids who depend on you? And so having another person to be able to kind of negate those lies is really
Right.
helpful. But then they can help you get to the root of why am I even believing these lies? How did I get
True.
here? Sometimes we can pinpoint this happened and then I went down this path. Sometimes we don't know. Sometimes just life shits on us over time, and who we once were and
Yeah.
the spark we once had is gone. And so um having someone to talk to can really, really help you work through that stuff.
And also knowing that your worst day is never your worst day. You're always going to find a day in the future that is going to be worse than the worst day you ever thought you had.
Oh gosh, that's kind of miserable. I
No,
felt like you're gonna.
it is. No, it is miserable, but you have to think about it that way sometimes when you're depressed. Today's a really bad day. I have not felt myself, and I I don't think I want to do this anymore.
Mhm.
And I think that's my worst day. And then 6 months down the road, I hit a cat on the road, and that's worse than the day that I had 6 months ago. So I
Yeah.
always look at it, this might be a bad situation. I might be going through something horrible right now. But in the future, there's going to be a day that something is going to happen. It may not be worse, but it may feel worse
Yeah.
at the moment. So there's always going to be a bad day out there that's going to be worse than the day that you had today.
Yeah. So today
And
could be worse.
yes, and then you have to think about this too. If I wake up and I tell myself that I'm going to be happy every morning, that I am going to be ecstatic, that I am breathing, then I have a good day. If I
Yep.
wake up and I say, today is going to be a shitty day, I'm probably going to have a shitty day.
Yep. Well, it's like, have you ever brewed I have a single serve coffee, so you just put the cup under it. And I have
I
brewed
can't
it
drink
and forgot to put
coffee.
the cup under it. What?
So I can't drink coffee.
Oh, well, I drink decaf, so it's super lame coffee if it makes you feel better.
Okay.
But when you brew the coffee and it goes all over and you smell coffee really strong, stronger than usual, and you go, uh-oh, and it's just everywhere, you can have the mentality of, great, so that's how today's going to be. Or you can be like, well, that's the worst thing that's going to happen today. And we're going to clean it
Mhm.
up and we're going to brew another one and put the thing under there. And we're going to make it a great day. So I think that's one perspective is, not letting a bad experience make it a bad day.
Right.
And also like you're saying, like think ahead to there are going to be worse days. Like this is going to be okay. But also thinking there are going to be better days. Maybe this is a bad day. You know, maybe you hit somebody's cat, or maybe you lost a loved one, or you received a really hard diagnosis. Um, there are still better days coming. And you don't have to worry about getting through the next 20 years. You have to worry about getting through today. And so just taking it one day at a time. You know, we've got Zach here saying, Mia, I understand what you're going through. I fight with my demons every day. And each day I ask myself, is this the day the demons win? You only have to worry about today. Don't let the demons win today. Keep going. And
They're
then
never going to
tomorrow,
win.
yep,
Those
trust.
the demons are the ones that you just push back and tell them not today. I have other things to do today that are more important than you.
Yep. So what
Talk
I
to you
do,
later.
what I did, so that this breakup that I went through a couple years ago is the worst thing I've ever gone through. It was worse than my divorce, honestly. Um, and it it became so hard to take care of myself. Like I'm a person who I love to cook. I love going out to eat. I love going out and having a cocktail or a martini or whatever. But I find that when I drink alcohol, it enhances whatever my mood is. So if I drink alcohol when I'm sad, I get so sad. So I couldn't drink, or I just would be out in public sobbing on at a table, you know, in front of a bunch of people. So I'm like, okay, I can't be going out drinking. But also I didn't want to be out because what if I run into this person, you know? Um, so I would stay home and I lost my zest for life. And for dinner, I would have a bowl of cereal or I would have a Hot Pocket. I didn't want to put in any effort for myself because I just didn't feel like it. And it got to a point where I was like, I need to pull myself out of this and I need to love myself because no one else is going to do it for me. I mean, I have my family and my friends, they love me, but like the day in, day out, no one's going to do it for me but me. So there were times that I didn't feel like it. I didn't feel like eating, but I knew I didn't eat a lot. So I would just be like, I'm going to make bacon wrapped jalapeno poppers. It is my favorite snack. I make 10 of them. I eat it as a whole ass meal. And now I really want that. That sounds really good. Maybe I'll make that tomorrow. Um, and I just would force myself to do something nice for myself, you know? Maybe it's cooking something, or maybe it's going for a walk, or maybe it's drawing or whatever sort of artistry that you do. Like maybe it's a hobby that you fell out of when you were in the relationship, or a hobby that you fell out of because of life. But it's like find something that you can look forward to try to get that spark back.
Absolutely. And whether it's mental health challenges that you're facing in your relationship, or maybe health challenges, physical health challenges, those are hard to deal with too. Just remember that you guys stay on the same page as your partner. Make sure that you're checking in with them. Make sure that you're working through the issues. And if those issues are too much for you, don't string them along. Just let them walk away. You walk away and tell them, we don't align anymore, and that's okay. Hopefully you don't get a bitter ex out of it, because I don't like bitter exes, because at some point in your relationship, if you decide to walk away, walking away is okay. Walking is away is okay because you're going to get that self-care and self-love and the attention and everything that you were seeking in the relationship before. You don't even have to seek it anymore. You can be that for yourself.
It is
So it's
beautiful.
okay to walk away, but if you're going to stick around, be there.
Yes.
Don't back off. Be the person that they need when they're going through the issue. Because I promise you, when you're going through your own issue, that person that you were there to support will 100% be on your side and be there to support you in any issues that you have in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's worse to stay in the relationship and go through the motions and not really be present and not be the emotional support. You're just kind of there out of obligation. I think it's better to release someone so that they could find healing on their own. Because if they are with a person who doesn't want to be there It's like you can sense that, you can feel it, and
Mhm.
I feel like it leaves you in kind of a stuck place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It can make you feel like, is this worth it? Is it worth moving forward and continuing the relationship, or should I step back? Because you're stepping back from me. So should I step back also and we just part ways? And that's when it becomes more difficult, especially if they're going through a mental health issue. If they are going through a mental health issue and you don't want to deal with it, or you don't think you can deal with it, walk away from them, please. Let them heal on their own. It'll be more difficult for them in the beginning, but I promise you they'll be much happier if you walk away than if you stick around.
And there are people who maybe at the moment may not feel like they want you to walk away because change is scary. And especially if you've been together for a long time, it's like they don't know what their life would look like, or they might feel abandoned. Or, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to not leave a relationship, right? Or to not want your partner to leave. Um, I know when I went through my divorce, there was a lot of tension at first, and I was the one who left, and my husband did not want us to divorce. And it was heartbreaking because I loved him and I cared about him and I didn't want him to be sad, but I knew that we were not good together. And I knew that I had to walk away for our own individual health and the health of our children and their future health. And we both agree now, years later, that this was the right move. This is what we should have done. We are glad that we split. We're great co-parents. We love our children. But when you're in it, it's hard to have that mentality, but if you know that it's the right thing to do, like, don't string that person along.
We would love to hear your story, so make sure you let us know in the comments. Drop a comment, or you can leave a message on whatever social media you may be watching from.
You know, thinking about dating gives me serious anxiety. I mean, between dick pics and like over texting or dudes not texting back at all, some days I feel like I just want to accept a future where it's just me and my cats.
Big dude, was he at least 6'5"?
They never are. No, no.
Hey, girl, but really, you guys, eating sucks, and I am so glad I am not out there in it.
You're one of the lucky ones, because it really does. And it feels like there's just so much trash out there. But here's a question about dating. What is considered too fast versus too slow?
Honestly, I don't think there's such thing as too fast or too slow. I honestly think from my heart is whatever you're comfortable with. If you want to go out on your first date and have sex with somebody, do it. If that's what you're comfortable with, who cares what everybody else around you thinks? Because that is something that you're comfortable with, and nobody else's opinions matter on that part. Because then you're living your happiest, healthiest life. Just when you're doing that, make sure you are using protection.
Now, I'm with you on whatever you want to do on a first date, go for it, live your best life. But I do caution about going too fast emotionally. And I only caution this because I've done it so many times where, say that you match with someone on a dating app and you start talking and it's like, oh my gosh, this person, you know me, this person has the same political affiliation as me, and they're a great communicator, and they, their neighborhood, according to the dating apps, will tell you like what part of town, like they're only 15 minutes away and they have the same interests. And so we get so excited about like we talked about earlier, these few things being compatible, right? That we think we're going to be compatible. And I would get so excited so quickly. And I would, the way that I communicate with my sisters is like Snapchat videos. And so we have a group chat, and I would send a video and be like, oh my gosh, like haven't met this guy yet, but we just had a video chat and he's so great. And this is what his name is. And like, you're going to hear a lot about this one. And my sisters would get so excited for me. And it's like, we're all in this together, right? Like, the one has been married for 20 years. The other one's been with her fiance for like 8 years. And so it's like, yes, maybe Ashley's finally found the one. And then after 2 dates, I'm like, this is not the one. And then I'm like, there was this, and there was this, and there was this, and they're like, no, we were so excited. So it's like I'm taking everybody on this roller coaster because I would get so excited so quickly. And it's like, I had 3 video chats with a guy. I met him in person, and we were automatically exclusive because I just liked him so much. This was last summer. This is not like 8 years ago. This just happened, okay?
Okay, we're
I'm
gonna
working
go
on it.
off your tangent for just a second. How important is sex? Like really, how important is it? You
I
found
think
a person, you've matched with them, you've been on the date. How important is sex?
I think it's very important.
I
I would
agree.
say probably a person with a low sex drive, it would not be very important because it would be something that they don't have to do very often or deal with very often. To a person with a high sex drive, it is, to me, it's essential. That's my move. Um, to me, it's essential. And if everything else was in alignment except for that, I think I could make it work. Like say there were, sometimes there are health issues that prevent the man from being able to perform. It's like, well, there's workarounds that you can do with toys or whatever else. Like, I think that I would be able to make a relationship work if the sex itself wasn't good, but there was still that chemistry and compatibility physically. But if you meet somebody that you really like and you really have a good time talking and there's no sexual chemistry, it's like maybe this person's just supposed to be your friend. I
That's exactly what they would be for me because sex is super important. I feel like it is a deal breaker, to be honest. If we have matched, we have gone on the date, we think that we're compatible, and then we go to the sex and it's not that great, I'm not moving forward in the relationship. Because there's going to be somebody that comes around that thinks sex with you is amazing. And I don't want to take that opportunity away from you because I know how important it is to me and I know how much it means to me to be satisfied. If you're not satisfying me, I think I would have to move on and remain friends. Don't get me wrong. I would love to remain friends with you. But if we are not sexually compatible, if you're not satisfying me and I am not satisfying you, please go find somebody else to satisfy you. And I will go and find somebody else to satisfy me. Because there is no reason in this world for you to have a bad sex life. Sex is important. It releases endorphins. It releases all the good chemicals, the make you feel good chemicals. And we need those tremendously.
It's honestly the only fun kind of cardio also. And it
Oh,
burns calories.
so many calories.
I'm fortunate. I have definitely had partners that I was not sexually compatible with, but it's never been the only thing. It's been like there's already, like, I don't want to call them red flags because they're not like bad things. It's just there's already things that I feel like may not be in alignment, or things where it's like maybe there's timing constraints and our schedules don't super align, or um, I had one person who he's just not really a texter, but because I'm only free like once or twice a week right now, I need somebody that is a texter. And so I felt very much like forgotten, and I felt like we weren't connecting. And so it's like I've had experiences where the sex was not great and I ended things, but it wasn't because of that. That was one thing in a pile of things. Um, I would be really disappointed if it was the only thing that wasn't in alignment with somebody. That would be, gosh, such a freaking bummer.
See, and I live my life that my life's not ever going to be a bummer. I can't be in a relationship that we're not compatible sexually. But what if you're compatible sexually, but he's not meeting all of those needs? What if he's not telling you that you're pretty, or she's not telling you that you're handsome, or they are not buying you flowers? Where do you go from there? The sex is great, but everything else sucks.
I think sex is a great way for couples to come together and connect physically, but it is so important to have that emotional connection as well. And it comes back down to what you were saying earlier, Mia, about communication and knowing what your needs are and communicating those to your partner, but also keeping their needs in mind. And so, like talking about compatibility, if you have two people who are touchy and they love holding hands and rubbing fingers and, walking by and doing this or whatever, like that's going to be a very natural, very easy way to show love and affection to each other. But if you have one person who's like a porcupine and they don't want to be touched, and then you have another person who's like, hug me, love me, kiss me, like I need all of the affection. It's like that's where it becomes we need to make more effort and we need to talk about our needs. And sure, the sex is great, but here's what I'm lacking and here's what I need. And if you love me, even though you're not naturally touchy, you will make the effort to touch my arm as you walk by or give me a hug as you walk in the door or whatever.
Or the goodbye kiss. The goodbye kiss is so important because if you're in a relationship and you're feeling the love, you're feeling the affection, what's the last thing that you ever want to do with the person that you love? If it's the last thing that you ever do with the person that you love, you kiss them goodbye.
Yeah.
Even though it may be the last time you kiss them goodbye, always make sure you're giving that goodbye kiss, that goodbye hug, and saying, I love you, because you never know if that's going to be the last time that you're going to leave the house and see them.
Yep.
So having that too is important.
I think about that all the time. No partner, obviously, but anytime that I drop my kids off at school, especially, gosh, with things going on in the world right now, it's like every time my daughter or my son gets out of the car, I say, I love you. Like, I want them to always know and always remember because even if we're fighting as they're getting out of the car, I'm like, I still love you. Just, you got to make an impact. You got to make it count.
I agree 100%. Now, let's say you found the person, you found the love, you found the sex, they're meeting all of your needs, but they live 500 miles away. You
They just
met
have
them on a night at the bar. What's the longest you've ever traveled for a date?
an hour.
An hour?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's well, actually,
I love
one
this.
time, one
Juicy.
time a guy flew me to North Carolina from Ohio to spend a weekend with him. It was someone I had known for many, many years. So technically, North Carolina, I don't know how many miles that is, but it's a lot. But other than that one time, typically, um, in in my circle from dating apps and whatnot, an hour is the longest I've gone. But I try not to go over a half hour because I'm from a small town, a half hour from the city, and I hate
Mhm.
driving a half hour. That's why I live in the city now. And so if I see that they're over 20 minutes away, I'm like, I don't think it's going to work. And my friends are like, you think you're being a little bit picky? I'm like, yes, I do. But I don't want to drive a half hour. If they want to drive to me a couple times because I don't want to drive farther than that, and I really like them, then sure, I'll start, driving that far. I matched with a guy, the last guy that I dated. He had lied in his profile about his location because he is a principal at a school and he didn't want to come up in that city's radius. And he told me right away, like, I don't actually live in this city. I live in this city. And I was like, oh, I'm like, well, just so you know, I wouldn't have matched with you if I knew that. And he said, I'm on your side of town all the time. It's not a problem. I'll drive to you. And he drove to me the first time, and it's an hour drive. And I liked him so much that then I'm like, okay, let's do it. And so I would drive an hour there, he would drive an hour here, and but it's just a lot. I don't want to drive an hour. It's too far.
I think long distance dating would be really difficult for me. I don't think I could do it. If you're not like 5 minutes on the road from me and we can't grab a beer at the bar, then why are you trying to date me? Because
Yep.
not only are we dating, I have a work life, I have kids. We'll say if I was single and dating, I have
Right.
a work life, I have kids, I have a house to keep up with, I have bills to pay.
Mhm.
Where am I going to find the time to long distance date?
Right.
But what if I'm missing that opportunity? What if I'm missing the opportunity to find that love because I'm not willing to date outside of my range
Yeah.
of 5 miles?
Well, I've had people tell me that I should expand my dating range outside of my city because I'm in a small city in Ohio, and I swear everybody is connected. You know, the six, what is it, the six, whatever, to Kevin Bacon. There's like everybody's like 6 people away from Kevin
Six
Bacon.
degrees.
Yeah, but where the city I live in, it's like everybody is 2 people away. So if you don't know that person, they at least know somebody that you know. Like it's just a small, it's not a small town, it is a small city. Um, and people have been like, maybe you should expand your radius to 2, 3 hours. And I'm like, I can't relocate. I have shared parenting of my children. I own my house. I have 2 bands that play locally in this area. Like, I'm not going to get on a dating app, meet the man of my dreams from 2 hours away, and expect him to move to my city. Like, that's not fair. I I wouldn't want to do that for someone else. So I wouldn't want to make someone do that for me. And then how do you navigate going on dates? Like when I don't have my kids, I'm playing in my bands, which is my one of my jobs. And so it's like I don't have the freedom to travel to them. So then
Right.
I'm getting on a dating app and expecting them to always travel to me. That's not fair. So I think I just think it's not for me.
I think it doesn't work for a lot of people, but I've heard that it does work for some. Like I I know for sure I have somebody, but I can't tell the whole story because it's not my story. But I know that it's worked out for them. Living here on the East Coast, their significant other was living over in the Midwest. And they met on, of all things, because I'm old, MySpace.
I met my ex-husband on MySpace, random tangent.
Right? Because I'm old. I was born in the 1900s. They met on MySpace. And we were young, super young, 18, 19 at the time. And doing that travel and meeting people at that time wasn't very common, or it was very dangerous. So when I found out about it, I was like, maybe not. Guess what? They're still married.
Aw, that was a long time ago too.
A MySpace marriage.
Well, and I bet it's even easier now than it ever has been because look at us. I'm in Ohio and you're in Maryland, and
I know,
we're
right?
right here doing this video chat. And we've got people from, all over tuning in. And so it's like, I think that if I was going to do long distance, so I dated somebody once who traveled for work, and we would video chat for like 5 or 6 hours. He would do his thing during the day while he was traveling, and then he would call me from the restaurant and he would just prop his phone up against a cup and he would eat his food and I would eat my food, and it was like we were
Oh,
together. So I do think
that's
it would
so
be easier.
sweet.
Yeah, it was very sweet. Um,
Making
so I do think it would be easier to date long distance now, but I would need to know that it was temporary and that there was an ending where they lived here. since I can't. I could maybe move someday in like 10 years, but not anytime soon.
But I think honestly, that's the goal in the end always. And the issue with that goal is you have somebody on the East Coast, you have somebody on the West Coast, and they both want to be together. They've been in a relationship for a year, but who moves? Really? At that point, how are we supposed to know which person moves? Do we move because this person has a better job? Or do we stay in my area because I have family close and my family means a lot to me, but yet they're not ready to compromise on their job? And then you run into those issues too. So I think approaching a long distance relationship with all of your expectations on the table, you know, I can't move or I'm willing to move is out on the table, then it's easier to navigate that relationship. No matter how long it takes for you guys to finally come together, at least knowing in the beginning, hey, I'm willing to move, or hey, I can't move because I have family and family means too much to me, or my job is too good, I can't move, but hopefully you can move here. And then if neither one of you are willing to move, where do you go from there? So knowing that in the beginning really helps a long distance relationship to work out.
Yeah, and even the last guy I dated that was only an hour away, he was like, I have this condo on the lake and I'm going to be buying a lake house and it's really small, but it's a great view and it would be a great place for your kids. Like imagine them in the backyard and we just go swimming on the lake and we've got the community pool and all this stuff. And I'm like, he's already imagining me moving there when I'm not moving there. I'm not downsizing my 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house with a full basement and a huge yard for your tiny 2-bedroom
Condo?
house. Well, the condo was fine. But then he wanted to buy a lake house and it was also 2-bedroom, tiny. And I'm just like, where are my children going to go there? I have a boy and a girl. And like, it's just one of those, like, this is why I don't want to do it. I don't want to expect someone to uproot their whole life to come to me. But I guess for true love, anything is possible, right?
It is possible. Guys that are viewing, girls that are viewing, everybody that is viewing, go ahead and tell us your long distance dating story. I would love to feature it on our show, whether it's successful or not. So that way we can help the others out there in the dating world navigate their dating life and their long distance relationships too. Now, let's hit on a hard to talk about subject. Drugs. Are you guys okay with your partner using them? Tell us in the comments. Write us a story on whatever viewing platform you're on. Send us a message. We'd love to feature that on our next episode. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. It's been great having you guys here. Zach, thank you for joining us in the comments. And until next time, untangle those heartstrings. Bye, guys.
See you guys.